Welcome to the Q-MindBody Podcast. My name is Darren Main. In this podcast, we talk about all things having to do with gay men's wellness, spirituality, and self-inquiry. And in this podcast, I am super excited to interview one of my favorite authors of all time. His name is Christian de la Huerta. You may know him from his groundbreaking book, Coming Out Spiritually, which really helped me to reframe how I think about being a gay man, and that it's not just something we accept, but this important part of what we bring to society, and there's actually a spiritual component to it. He's got a new book out called Conscious Love, and we're going to be talking about that today and how you can have a bit more conscious love in your life. I will post links to his website and social media, and of course his new book, in the show notes so that you can get access to all of that, as well as upcoming events he has online in the real world, such as retreats and much more. I'll also post a link to my information in the Q-MindBody community online on Facebook, Instagram, and elsewhere, so that you can connect with other like-minded queer men. And finally, this is being supported by the Gay Wellness website, where you can find healers in your local area. That said, let's bring in Christian, one of my favorite people on this planet, to talk about conscious love. Christian, welcome.
Hey, Darren. Thanks so much for having me. And thanks for that beautiful, very touching introduction. Thank you.
Well, it's true. It's true. I remember meeting you and like when Coming Out Spiritually first happened, doing a little event at Castro Yoga, which was the yoga studio I co-owned many years ago.
Yeah.
We were both young, foolish.
Your hair was really long.
Really long and really blonde. Yeah, good old days. And neither of us have
20-something years ago.
A day, not a day. You look like you're, how old were you then, like 30?
Probably. I don't even remember.
Yeah. And I was like 27, 28, 29. I don't know, but we were young. Anyway, you're back. You have done so much to support gay men and queer people in general in sort of living more conscious, intentional lives, starting, or even before that book, but that book really launched you into like where you became a household name in gay spiritual circles. And now you've got a new book out called Conscious Love. And I'm wondering if we could start there. Like, what is conscious love to you? Like, start with just like, what is the book about?
The book is Conscious Love: How to Transform Our Relationship to Relationships. So how to approach relationships in a different way. And I got to tell you, before we go any further, that you are quoted in it. And it's a quote that I use all the time in all my relationships retreats. And it is this, that it's really important to heal our relationship with our parents so we can stop dating them.
Oh, I'm so honored.
Yeah. And yet so profound, right? Because that is one of the things I do in this book is identify some of the ways that we get stuck in relationships, sometimes from the get-go, even before we get started, by attracting the wrong people. And by wrong, I don't mean better than or less. I mean, they're just not a match for who we are and where we are in life. Yeah. And so that's one of the ways in which I define a conscious relationship. If we're approaching a relationship because they are going to make us happy, or they're going to add meaning to our lives or validation or whatever it is, forget it, hang it up. There isn't anyone out there who's going to make us happy. And it's not their job to. How unfair to put that big responsibility on someone else. You are going to make me happy, or even add that much weight to the relationship. That's intense. Like relationships, as we all know, are a lot of work already to begin with. And so if we're approaching a relationship consciously, that means that we know that there isn't anyone out there who's going to make us happy. It's not their job to. Only we can do that for ourselves. Then the relationship has a chance. And there's different levels of doing this. And this is this part of it is it's kind of applied teachings from Ram Dass, another gay spiritual teacher. So he talks about 3 levels of relationships. Level 1, the other party doesn't want to play at this level, but enough about the relationship works, right? Sex is good. We cohabitate well together. Maybe we co-parent well together. We travel well together. We have stimulating conversations. We make each other laugh. Enough of it works that then we'll say, okay, it's not perfect, but there's no such thing as a perfect relationship. So I'm going to reclaim all the time, all the effort, all the resources that I would otherwise be spending looking for the one. And I'm going to focus that on my own process of healing and transformation, which I think ultimately is what we're here for. We'll skip and come back to number 2. Level 3, both beings already fully realized, fully aware of our God essence, our God presence, our God nature. So then the relationship becomes a sacred dance in which we mirror that for each other. I don't think we need to worry about that one yet. So back to number 2.
Well, you and I maybe, but
right.
Yeah.
So in the second one is relationship as yoga, right? As a way to get ourselves back to union, as a way to use that container of the relationship to speed up our process of healing. Because we know, right? We all know we have blind spots that we're never going to see in here. But boy, can we see it over there in the other. And it's a safe bet in a relationship that what's there, it's also here. And the more whatever they do gets us and gets our goat and triggers us, the clearer the sign is that it's in here too in some way. The details might be completely different. But otherwise it wouldn't bug us so much. And so what is that, right? So if rather than pointing the finger and saying, you do this, you do that, you never do this, you always do that. Which is really easy, right? To shove that mirror in the other partner's face. If we do the hard work of turning that mirror around and asking ourselves the question, how do I do that? It becomes an incredible instrument for speeding up that process of healing.
Well, I have a question for you.
Sure.
As a gay man, what you're saying feels true to me. Like you're hitting like a lot of like truth points. And the reality though is that I feel like, and I don't think I'm alone in this, it's like comfort food. You know, the junk food we were given as a kid to make us feel safe or soothe our fears or calm us down or whatever. That becomes the stuff we chase after and crave today. Like no one craves a Big Mac because it's nutritious or macaroni and cheese because it's nutritious. They crave it because that's sort of what we learned. That's what was shown to us. And so it's comforting. It's familiar. And I think as gay men dating, we go after the familiar. It's comforting, right? The absent father turned into the guy that has commitment issues or is emotionally unavailable or whatever. And you're like, perfect, hot, here's my number. And even knowing this, or at least having a basic understanding of this, it's still really hard. You know, like we still have our daddy issues and our mommy issues or whatever that manifest in our gay love life all the time. And how do you help people pierce through that? Like knowing it is one thing, but actually making a different choice and starting to feel an attraction to that which is healthy as opposed to that which is comfortable. I haven't pierced that yet, and maybe you can help me.
That's great. You know, and the first thing to say about that is becoming aware of the patterns, right? Because most of the time we're doing all this stuff and without even knowing why we do the things we do, right? And why we're attracted to certain types of behavior or relationships. So, you know, I'm not dogmatic about many things. I'm only dogmatic about 2 or 3. And maybe dogmatic's not the word, because if you show me a different way, I'm open to looking at it. But if you want to be free, there's a couple of things that I don't see a way around. And one of them is going with it and facing ourselves and asking the hard questions. Who am I? What are we doing here? What am I passionate about? And why do we do the things we do? Why do I find myself in what sometimes feels like an old movie, only with a different actor, different co-lead, but the same kind of crap coming up, the same kind of arguments, the same kind of issues. And so at some point we got to get honest with ourselves and realize that there's only one common denominator in every one of those arguments and in every one of those relationships, and it's right here. So then that begins to open up the door to those questions that we're talking about. Why do we do the things we do, and a self-awareness?
So you're asking me to take personal responsibility.
Yeah. That's
no way around that. That's just hurtful. Did you have to go there?
And that's that's the second thing I'm dogmatic about. I don't see a way around it. Right. And my way of framing that is we got to tear up the victim card. The poor me, woe is me. If daddy hadn't left, or if mommy had been this way, or if the teacher or the minister or society was different, if there was no homophobia or racism or sexism, then I might have a chance and I might be happy. But as long as we're holding anyone or anything outside of us responsible for our state of being, forget it. We just give our power away all over again. And so I don't see a way around that one either. And the way that you're framing it is more in the positive way of looking at it is, taking accountability for everything in our lives, even the stuff that sucked, that should have never happened when we were kids. I'm not denying that. I'm not washing that stuff away. It sucked and it shouldn't have happened. And human beings do horrible things to one another. But if we're still holding on, to whatever happened, if we're still holding mommy or daddy or the ex who left us or cheated on us over the fire for what they did or failed to do, our hand is also getting burnt. Yeah. And so,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, that's the third thing that I'm dogmatic about is forgiveness. If you want to be free, I don't see a way around that.
Yeah. I was talking to a younger friend about our coming out experiences, and he's considerably younger. And he had this relatively easy coming out experience of like his family was just like, awesome, we're so happy. And, not that there won't be people in society that won't treat him differently because of his sexuality, but there wasn't this like, I could be disowned. And by the way, AIDS is killing everybody. It was really hard when we came out.
Yes.
And I was thinking how nice it would be to have come out like that. And then I also thought, but my coming out, for as brutal as it was, and people of our generation, it also made me stronger. It made me who I am today. It forged me into who I am. And if I could get in a time machine, I don't know if I'd go back and change it. And I think there was a moment where somewhere in my growth where I stopped blaming the world for the shitty circumstances of my life and started saying, wow, thank you for the shitty circumstances. I hope no one else has to endure them. But for me, it's sort of what I needed. And that was the moment I found freedom.
And that's it. How empowering that is. Yeah. Right? To be able to be grateful for all of it, even the stuff that didn't feel good and that wasn't fun. But when we get to that place where we can realize, you know what, it all helped to mold the person who I am and continue to become. And for that, I'm infinitely grateful.
Yeah. I want to ask you about the subtitle of your book. It's From Relationship to Relationships, plural. And I'm wondering if you could explain what that means.
Yeah, because we're focused on relationship with other humans, but the main relationship that we need to focus on first is our relationship to relationships. How do we approach relationships? How do we hold them? that's the more complicated part, and which also means our relationship to love. How are we holding love? How are we thinking about it? Um, and most importantly too, with the relationship to ourselves. Because again, if we're approaching any relationship with anything that is less than self-acceptance and self-love, that's what's gonna the relationship is gonna reflect right back to us. It's gonna meet us there like water seeking its own level. So I can't highlight it enough. I can't emphasize this enough. The main relationship is with ourselves. And yes, it's hard to look at the stuff and to face our inner demons. It is hard. It's nothing short of heroic. And it is infinitely worthwhile. Because when we do that, we transform that self-doubt and that self-hatred that at least I was so familiar with growing up. My adolescence was one long depression, but we transform that, we transmute that into self-acceptance and self-love, and that is priceless, and no human being can give us that.
I mean, I know the answer to this, at least for me, but I'm wondering, let's say someone's listening to you right now and saying, I like what he's saying, but I don't know how, right? Most of us were not taught how to be self-accepting, how to love ourselves, how to form a relationship with ourselves that is healthy and loving and kind and compassionate. How do you support people in learning how to do that? Which, if the only thing you've ever known is self-loathing, it's kind of hard to say, just love yourself.
Yeah.
It's like, just believe in unicorns. I've never seen one, but I'm pretty sure they exist.
Yeah. And that's why this work, whether your work and my work, like, to me, it's so powerful. It's because it's lived. It's not something we picked up in a course or a weekend or a book somewhere. It's like stuff that it's hard lived. It stems from the survival level stuff. Like, for me, it was a matter of survival. I had suicidal fantasies. And so I had to work it out. And by the way, I think that's one of the gifts of being gay for those of us who had to struggle with coming out, is that it gave us a head start. We had to face some of these really deep existential questions, which I think every human being should face or needs to face, or most of us do face at some point. But we started having to face that earlier on. So we came to terms with those questions earlier than our heterosexual counterparts. And that's a blessing. That's a gift. But I forgot your question, your direct question.
I forgot my question. No, it was something to the effect that how do you help people in... I mean, I think for somebody who is listening to this going, yeah, it sounds great, but the only thing I've ever known is how to hate myself. I mean, it might even be just the river they swim in or the pond they swim in, so they have it's just their normal.
Yeah, and I get that. And so the main message that I want to give that person is that there is hope, and that the work that it takes to get there is completely worthwhile, infinitely rewarding. So there are many different paths, right? The first step is looking within, asking ourselves the questions. Another practice is looking at relationships, whether romantic or not, as mirrors. So that's going to give us a way to perceive and to have insight about these blind spots that we all have. But again, what if whatever they're doing gets us, pretty safe bet that there's something going on here as well, and it could be completely different. Let me give you a story to that effect. That was when I moved back to Florida years ago after living in California, where you and I met. I started dating somebody who had just ended a 7-year relationship and wasn't ready to do another intense relationship. And I knew this guy wasn't really a match for that in terms of where we were in life, experiences, that kind of self-awareness, that kind of stuff. But sex was great. And so, we dated each other for a bit and suddenly disappeared. Like he wouldn't Like, happened a couple of times. No, didn't respond to text or messages, no phone calls, no emails, and nothing. Called him at work, and now he's no longer working there. So it's like, what's going on? Is it drugs? Is it alcohol? Is he fired? It's like, right. But I didn't get it because I was focused over there. I was focused on him. So subconsciously, of course, like this is all subconscious, how we do the things we do. I created a similar situation in a different walk of life. So I was flying to New York to meet with a literary agent that I was working with then, who was usually great about communications. She'd get back to me within 24, at most 48 hours. A week goes by and I haven't heard from her. Okay, that got my attention, right? Two people, different walks of life, kind of doing the same thing, right? But because these are blind spots, we need to get clear first about what they are doing, right? So what were they doing? They weren't showing up. They weren't keeping their word. They weren't doing what they said they would do. They weren't keeping their agreements. And so they were out of integrity in that way, right? Easy to see. Turn that mirror around. Once again, crap. How am I doing that? It took me a few days because I started focusing on relationships. So am I showing up? Yeah. Am I doing what I said I would do? Yep. Am I keeping my agreements? Yep. And then it hit me. In relationship to my writing. How many times had I said to myself, I'm going to finish that chapter by such and such a date? Did I do it? No. I was doing other stuff, good, important stuff, but I wasn't keeping my agreements with myself in that particular area. I wasn't showing up for my writing. Same crap, different details. And so once I have the insight, like here's how this stuff works. No longer that I need to create that drama out in my life for me to get that insight. So within the hour of me having the insight, they both called. They both shut up again. And so it goes to show how much this work is worth it, right? So that we can stop creating drama in our lives and just get the lesson that we need to get, right? And then we can make a choice. I don't have to write a book. No, there's nobody, saying that I have to write a book or finish that chapter by any date, but I have to be conscious about it. Right. So either do it or make a conscious choice and renegotiate the deadline, or make a conscious choice and say, you know what, I'm not going to do that.
It is interesting that when you talk about keeping your word to yourself, I always say if you were to be in a date yourself, and you frequently made a promise and didn't keep it, or talk to your partner the way you talk internally to yourself, how long would you be with that person? How long would they be with you? Right. Exactly. And it's amazing what we justify and how we relate to ourselves, how we speak to ourselves, how we don't show up for ourselves. If we did it to any other human on the planet, they'd bolt, and who could blame them?
Yeah. And it's not okay.
Yeah. If I said to you, you're old and dumb and never get anything done, and what a loser.
Not okay. And the thing, like most of us know this by now, that the brain, it's like a computer. It's just not sitting there evaluating what we're putting into it. It's just taking it on. So that's what we're programming into our brain computer. And if we do that, that's what's going to show up in our lives. That's what the relationships are going to mirror back to us.
I would love to apply this specifically to gay men for just a moment, in a pattern that I've seen in myself and in many, many men in my life, friends, people I do coaching work with, yoga students, acquaintances, pretty much everyone. And that is, as gay men, we are not always, but frequently outward focused, right? We're looking for the next hookup, or we're looking for the next fabulous gay event, brunch, or RuPaul's Drag Race. Or there's this very much outward element to our culture where we're seeking outside ourselves constantly for affirmation and entertainment and satisfaction. And that's fine to a point, I suppose. But it feels like there aren't a lot of spaces. You are one of those people that are out there that are inviting gay men to be more inward looking. How do we, I mean, I think you and I are trying to do that, and there are many others trying to do that, but how do we punch through in a bigger way and really help? I mean, your first book, Coming Out Spiritually, was really about how we have a special place at the spiritual table as queer people. Um, how do we help people to see that in a world that just
Mm.
seems so dazzling? Whether
Yeah.
it's hot men or fun parties or whatever.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful question. And I don't know that as gay men we have a corner on that market. Um, I think, and I don't think it's fine to do that. I think it's tragic. It's a tragic way to live that will make happiness unattainable. But I think all humans do. I think it's part of the human condition. I don't know if gay men do it disproportionately. I don't know that. I work with all sorts of people from all, straight, gay, straight, and all different varieties. I think it's part of the human condition that we seek outside of ourselves for meaning, for validation, for purpose. And the tragic part of it, the reason that I think it's tragic is that all the answers for everything that we're looking for are inside, are within.
Yeah.
And that's where, one of my 3 commandments is go within. I don't see a way around that. And yeah, we see it all the time.
Yeah. In my Urban Mystic book, I tell this story about sitting on the beach and having this perfect day. That when you just like go to the beach or you're out in nature and it's just like a perfect moment. And I was packing up my stuff to get ready to leave and I couldn't find my sunglasses. And I was sort of freaking out, going through my bag, digging through the sand, wanting to blame the guy next to me, accuse him of stealing them. And after about 5 minutes of like utter chaos and internal insanity, I realized that they're perched on my head. And I feel like that's the story of my life. Like getting upset, freaking out, searching in all these different places, getting more and more frustrated that I'm not finding what it is I think I'm looking for. And then looking sort of like a dipshit because it's just right there.
Yeah.
Anyway.
And that's part of the human condition. And you embody for us right there a way to deal with this stuff, right? It's just laugh at it. Be compassionate with ourselves, to extend the same compassion, generosity that we extend to others, to ourselves. Because a lot of us don't. And especially a lot of us in the caregiving world, we're really good about giving care and taking care of others. And we're not so good about doing that, extending that to ourselves. And for me, self-care is not selfish. That's a misunderstanding. It's a conditioning thing. Self-care, as far as I'm concerned, is mandatory. We take care of ourselves so that we can take care of others. Because what happens when we give and we give and we give, and this is just even in relationship, and we give some more, if that's not being met, it turns into resentment. And then that service-oriented attitude turns into servitude, and we feel trapped. We feel resentful. And it's our responsibility, right? Going back to one of those 3 commandments, personal accountability. You gotta own it all. Even the stuff that should have never happened, we can't do anything about what happened. Right? And I'm really sorry about the crap that we have to do with the stuff that happened in our pasts. So no matter what happened in the past, no matter what happens going forward, we can always choose, right? That's the operative word, how we show up in response. And when we look at it from that perspective, that pops us out of that victim mode. So rather than be the ruminating about what could have been or should have been or wish hadn't happened, all right, sorry, it sucked. What are you going to do about it? How are you going to show up in response? And that immediately clicks on that empowerment button.
Yeah. Well, in the line of self-care, which I completely agree with you. It's something that we're really typically not very good at. Like when I talk to new parents, they'll be like, "You're a dad. Got any advice?" I'm like, "Yeah, throw out all the child raising books and just focus on self-care because you intuitively know how to love your kid. But you forget that if you're not taking care of yourself. You don't have to go to the spa every day for 6 hours, but just go for a walk every day, meditate, do something. And I think the same is true for pretty much anything else that is of value in this world, relationships, or just making an impact, like in society, and politically or socially or whatever. But to that end, you do incredible work. And I am, of course, going to link to your book. I'll link to your website. But I'm wondering how else people might be able to interact with you, what you've got going on, and how people can just like get more of the amazingness that you are.
Thank you, Darren. um, I do retreats and workshops on different themes, relationships, how to do them consciously so they have a chance of working, personal empowerment. I do work specifically with women around women's empowerment um, because I believe that is the single most important thing that needs to happen in the world. Not to idealize women, put them up on a pedestal, or give them more crap to clean up in this world, this mess that we have all made, but because as a world, as a species, we've been running so off balance between the masculine and the feminine energies that course through all of us, through all of creation. And so I believe that when women are in 50% of power, we don't want to go back to a matriarchal system. But when we're in 50% of power, in balance, we're going to have a very different relationship to war, to poverty, hunger, social justice, how we treat the environment, to all of it. So that's why I think strategically is the single thing that we might focus on. I do stuff on life purpose, like what are we really doing here, right? Because that is where the source of our happiness and fulfillment is, internally, and in giving expression to that unique human potential that if we don't give expression to, ain't nobody else gonna do that. But the two constants to every retreat, to every workshop, one is teaching the ego mind. Because if we want to have relationships that have a chance of working, or a sense of personal empowerment, or lives that are filled with meaning and purpose, we have to understand what's been in the way of that. And that's the ego mind. And we don't have time to get into it now, but it's a huge and very important conversation and awareness. And it's beyond thinking of the ego as arrogance or inflated sense of self. It is that, but it is a whole lot more than that. So that's one thing. And the second thing is breathwork. In almost 35 years that I've been on this path, that I've been offering breathwork as a healing modality, I have yet to come across anything that heals as quickly and as profoundly and in so many levels. Not only in the area of emotional trauma and psychological stuff, nothing more effective or more quick that I've come across, but also even physically. And I know that sounds too good to be true, but it works. I can't argue with the results. It works. And so it's you're asking me earlier, like, what's my methodology in different words? It's a combination of the coaching, helping us understand the reasons and the patterns and the triggers and why we do the things we do. And then I weave into my retreat and my workshops, the breath work, which is where the real healing happens.
Well, my friend, I have, we met 30 years ago or something like that. It's been a long time since we first crossed paths. And it is amazing to me that you have not been like physically in my life for much of that time. And yet, every time I talk to you, every time I see you doing something online, I just feel like my brother. I love you knowing you're out there in the world, and I can't tell you how many people I've sent to you over the years because your work is so powerful.
Thank you, my brother. I feel the same about you. Like, we may not be in physical constant contact, but the connection and the love are always there and instantaneous, and we just pick up where we left off.
Yeah, and I am so thrilled. I can't believe you quoted me in your book. That's like super cool. I'm gonna be bragging about that for days.
Not only in books, Darren, but I've quoted that and your name in countless retreats.
Oh, thank you. Well, we can be each other's marketing gurus. How's that?
Yeah. I love that.
Speaking of marketing, and something that Christian does really well, and that is building community. If you want more of this, and by this I don't mean me or Christian or any one specific thing, but just connecting with other gay men, there's a few ways you can do that. You can follow Christian on social media and in the real world, go on one of his retreats. You can also get more involved in the Q-MindBody community. There's an Instagram page, a Facebook page. I'm doing some groups here in San Francisco, Gay Men's Sangha every month, and hopefully going to do some online as well, just so we can bring more people together. And something as simple as subscribing and commenting really helps other gay men to find interviews like this one. And I think these conversations are super important. It's why I'm doing this podcast. So like, subscribe, share, comment. And if you do comment, we will keep an eye on those and do our very best to respond. So all that said, check out the show notes for all the resources we mentioned. Christian, you are beautiful, and I'm so grateful you joined me today, and I would love to have you come back. And I'm trying to twist Christian's arm to come do a Gay Men's Sangha, be a special guest teacher. So if I achieve that, keep an eye out for that as well.
I would love that. Can't wait.
Namaste.
Namaste.